My wife thought she was safely mocking my deepest insecurities to her lover. She had no idea her old iPad was broadcasting her absolute ruin directly to my desk. For weeks, she had been drifting away. We had the picture-perfect suburban life, 2 kids, a solid income, a pristine house, but the silence between us had grown suffocating. I was twisting myself into knots trying to fix it. I left work early. I picked up extra chores. I left sweet notes of appreciation on the counter, desperately trying to bridge the gap. She repaid that effort with dismissive eye rolls, and her face permanently buried in her phone. Every night she was glued to her phone on the couch, ignoring me completely. She just sat there with this sickening little smirk on her face. She had this way of sighing, a long, condescending exhale, like my mere presence in the room was a tragic inconvenience to her. "Just catching up with the girls," she would murmur, her tone dripping with bored, untouchable arrogance. She honestly believed she was the smartest person in the room, playing the dutiful, exhausted wife, while quietly building an entirely separate, thrilling existence right under my nose. But arrogance always breeds sloppiness. Her fatal mistake was an old, forgotten iPad. I pulled it out of a desk drawer to charge up for our 9-year-old son. When the screen flickered to life, the Apple ecosystem did what it does best. It synced. Every single ping, every hidden notification, every dirty little secret flooded the glass in real time. Her Facebook Messenger was still logged in. Unfolding before my eyes like a slow-motion train wreck was her private chat with a guy from her hometown, JBC. The timestamps were erratic. It was clear evidence of frantically deleted messages, but what remained was more than enough to completely shatter my reality.
I took the day off the following morning, intending to cackle house projects just to make her happy. Instead, I retreated to my home office, locked the door, and opened that tablet. While she was out in the living room, ignoring the sweet notes I'd left her, I sat in the dark and watched her systematically tear me down. It wasn't just cheating, it was a psychological dissection. My deepest flaws, the private fears I had entrusted to my life partner, she served them up to JBC as a cheap joke. They ruthlessly mocked my performance in the bedroom, a thick sexual undertone pulsing through every single keystroke. I didn't confront her. Something inside me just snapped. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. The guy who spent months desperately trying to save this marriage, he was gone. It was time to go to work. For 2 agonizing weeks, I became a ghost in my own life. Every night I sat in the glow of that screen, taking screenshot after screenshot as their messages escalated. She'd come to bed, kiss my cheek, and claim exhaustion, entirely unaware I had just finished cataloging her exact plans to meet him at a luxury hotel downtown. She thought I was oblivious. She was completely convinced she held all the power, entirely blind to the fact that I was already consulting lawyers. I was quietly draining our joint finances. I was patiently weaving a snare so tight it would choke out her pristine reputation forever. The audacity she displayed was almost breathtaking. I watched the hidden messages roll in on that glowing screen, confirming JBC was flying into town for a weekend of quality time at a high-end boutique hotel downtown. The very next morning, she sauntered into the kitchen, pouring me a cup of coffee with a bright, manufactured smile. She draped her arms over my shoulders, her perfume suddenly cloying in my lungs, and pitched the greatest lie I ever heard.
She claimed she was exhausted. She desperately needed a spa weekend with the girls to recharge. If she could just have these 2 days to decompress, she promised she would come back ready to really focus on us, to fix our marriage. I looked her dead in the eye, searching for a single shred of guilt. Nothing. She was completely convinced she had me played. Before, I would have exploded. I would have thrown the iPad on the counter and demanded answers, screaming until my voice gave out. Instead, I just smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the tight, mechanical stretching of facial muscles. But it was enough for her. I reached up, patted her hand, and told her it was the best idea she'd ever had. I told her I would do absolutely anything to get us back on track. My heartbeat didn't even spike. I felt an eerie, subterranean calm wash over me. I just sat there sipping my coffee, watching her practically skip down the hall to pack her bags. She had no idea her life as she knew it was already over. The agonizing 2-week countdown began. Instead of blowing up, I got to work. I went straight to my lawyer and we drafted a brutal, ironclad separation agreement. It explicitly stated she would move out immediately, accept weekend visitation with the kids, and forfeit any interim child support until the divorce was finalized. I read over the crisp, legally binding pages, feeling the heavy weight of the paper in my hands. It wasn't just a document. It was a psychological guillotine, perfectly calibrated to sever her from the pristine, respected image she so desperately worshipped. D-Day finally arrived. I took the morning off and moved through the house on autopilot. There was no time to be emotional. I had a checklist. While she was applying her makeup, dreaming of her illicit weekend, I was at the bank. I systematically withdrew exactly half of every single joint account we shared. I closed our massive money market account, secured a cashier's check for her half, and safely deposited my portion into a brand new solo account she didn't even know existed. My paycheck was already rerouted. Her financial safety net was dissolved in under an hour. Next stop was Office Max. I stood by the humming commercial printer, watching it spit out 75 pages of Facebook Messenger screenshots. The ink was still warm as I stacked the thick, undeniable proof of her betrayal into a neat, terrifying ream.
My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from her. "Take it off now. I love you." I stared at the screen for a long, quiet moment before typing back 2 simple words. "Have fun." I killed time until 8:30 p.m. I let them get comfortable. I let them think they had gotten away with it. Then, I pulled my car into the dimly lit parking lot of her luxury hotel. The engine ticked as it cooled. I grabbed the manila folder containing the separation agreement, the cashier's check, and the 75 pages of printed screenshots. I walked through the lobby doors, went straight to the front desk, and asked the concierge to use the house phone. I didn't yell. I didn't shake. I simply asked them to connect me to JBC's room. The trap was set, and the jaws were about to snap shut. The phone rang 3 times before a groggy, confused voice picked up. "Hello," JBC muttered. I kept my voice perfectly level, devoid of any tremble or hesitation. "Hey, JBC, send my wife down to the lobby, now." There was a heavy, suffocating pause. Then he stammered out a weak, defensive lie, claiming he didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't argue. I simply played the only card that mattered. "Okay then, I guess I'll just have to call Mrs. JBC and get her down here instead." It was a total bluff,
I only knew his wife's first name, but the immediate sound of frantic shuffling and sheer unadulterated panic on his end told me the threat had landed like a bomb. "You've got 5 minutes," I whispered, and gently placed the receiver back on the cradle. Barely 2 minutes later, the brass elevator doors slid open. My wife stumbled out into the ambient light. Her hair was a mess, and she looked completely panicked. I directed her to a quiet, dimly lit corner of the lobby and sat her down. The second her mouth opened to spew a web of frantic, rehearsed bullshit about how it wasn't what it seemed, I dropped the 75 pages of printed screenshots on the glass table with a heavy, final thud. "I'm not here to argue," I stated. All the arrogance vanished the second she recognized her own messages. I didn't give her a chance to speak. I just laid out the ultimatum. The only way I wouldn't instantly email this towering pile of indiscretions to our teenage daughter, her adoring parents, and every single colleague in her image-obsessed professional network was if she moved out immediately.
I knew her pristine reputation was the only thing she actually cared about, so I weaponized it. I slid the cashier's check for exactly half of our former money market account across the table, followed by the ironclad separation agreement. She started bawling, real tears this time. You could literally see the panic setting in as she realized she was completely trapped. I could see the frantic calculations behind her eyes, the desperate realization that she was in a cage of her own making. "Read it, sign it, and leave it at the house when you pack your bags," I commanded. "Now, go have fun with JBC, but if you ever try to step back into that house as my wife, everyone sees these." I turned around and walked out, leaving her sitting there with her bags and her ruined reputation. The divorce wasn't quick, but I played the long game. I secured the house, primary custody of our children, and generous child support from her, effectively making her subsidize the comfortable, part-time lifestyle I now enjoy. She spent months in therapy. She begged on her knees for a second chance, entirely unaware that I was just running out the clock. I was establishing myself as the primary caregiver while stoically playing the victim. To our kids, I am the patron saint of fatherhood. To her, I am the one that got away, a permanent, agonizing reminder of the life she destroyed. She still pines for me. She has to wake up every single day knowing exactly what she destroyed. She threw away a perfect family for cheap hotel thrills. Now she's paying for my lifestyle while begging for a second chance she's never gonna get. I won. If you believe karma always collects its debts, hit that like button. And if you want more stories of people taking their power back, subscribe. I've got plenty more to tell.